Toyota is one of the most successful automotive manufacturers in history, and with good reason. They have a superb reputation for reliability, largely earned with their inline-4 engines. It must be said that every Toyota engine is created with quality, but some must be better than others. Today, we'll be ranking every Toyota inline-4 in a tier list format based on reliability, performance, and technological advancement to find out which is best. So let's get started. Toyota's initial inline-4 that saw high production volume was known as the R-Series. Starting back in the early 50s, the R-Series was a simple carbureted engine with 3 main bearings and a timing chain rather than a belt. The early models were smooth and quiet, but severely lacking in power. As time progressed, the engine saw 22 total iterations, with Toyota making slight tweaks along the way. The final result was the 22R, found most notably in the 80s and 90s Hilux, where it became known as a workhorse. Some versions could be had with a turbo, boosting torque figures to 173 foot-pounds, impressive for a 4-cylinder in the 80s. Power output is a bit low, especially in the higher RPM range, but many have modified the engines to fix this with negligible reliability issues. The R-Series was known to be smooth, stout, and quite reliable, with the exception of a timing chain issue on a very narrow band of models, and will fall into the A tier. Next up is the small Toyota P-Series engine. Used to power small trucks in the city streets of Japan, the P-Series is the smallest engine we've covered in this series so far, and has power figures that match. As a small pushrod engine, its main design goal was simplicity and functionality, which is apparent with the chosen application for the P-Series engines. Its usage in automotives was short-lived, and it eventually only resided in forklifts for the majority of its production run. Considering how basic it is and its seemingly successful run in the world of forklifts, it can't be knocked too much, but 60 horsepower in top trim makes it nearly unusable for major automotive application. Overall, the C tier would be appropriate. The K-Series was somewhat the next step forward following the P engines. Internally, the K-Series contained 5 main bearings for the crankshaft and 2 valves per cylinder. It was another pushrod engine driven with a timing chain like the P-Series. In terms of application, the K-Series saw plenty of automotive use, powering many Toyota hits over the course of 3 decades. It too could be found in forklifts, made possible by its small footprint. Although not much more powerful than the P-Series, the torque jump is significant, and the 7K in particular is plenty capable for a passenger car. For an efficient daily driver, the K-Series is great and will never leave you stranded. It's also worth mentioning that many of its applications, such as the Starlet, are very lightweight, making the power output manageable. A run-of-the-mill Toyota engine, the K-Series will go into the B tier. Packing serious historical significance, the Toyota T-Series engines are truly impressive all around. By design, the T-Series is quite unique. It used a cast iron block and aluminum head like the previous engines, but had hemispherical combustion chambers and saw a dual overhead cam utilized in later versions. With the ultra-high production volume thanks to the Corolla and Celica, the T-Series was a major player in giving Toyota a reputation of reliability. In terms of performance, the highest road-going version put out 160 horsepower, which was really impressive from a power per liter standpoint in that era. But what's mind-bending is the turbocharged 4T race engine making 592 horsepower out of a 2-liter format. This engine powered the first ever Japanese entry to the legendary Group B Rally Championship, although detuned for homologation reasons. Primarily focusing on street versions, the T-Series will fall into the high A tier. Following the T-Series were the A-Series engines, which could be found in the iconic AE86. Additionally, the A-Series powered the first generation MR2 in the Japanese market. Packing quite a punch in either its naturally aspirated or supercharged formats, the A-Series can be modified easily as the factory internals have no problem holding boost. The fuel efficiency was incredible, and amazingly, the 4A GZE supercharged engine crossed over the 100 horsepower per liter mark back in 1987. This was the engine that was found in the very first American market 1988 and 1989 Toyota MR2, and came with stronger internals as well. Across all applications, the A-Series was an absolute tank and had astonishing capability for its size. The later engines also had significant improvements made for thermal effects, with more cooling channels helping the engines in performance applications. The 4A engine was so good that the Formula Atlantic Racing Series adopted it as its spec engine. On the whole, it's fair to make the Toyota A Series our first entry to the S tier. A little larger than the engines covered so far, the S Series started production alongside the A Series and eventually took over for many of its applications found in the second generation MR2. It also reliably powered Toyota's highest selling passenger cars for nearly 2 decades. The S Series was quite a diversion in fueling systems, utilizing electronically controlled fuel injection opposed to mechanical carburetors. Interestingly, the S Series used in the Camry had a balance shaft to make them quieter, while the performance-oriented MR2 versions did not, making them slightly louder at idle. In all trims, power is respectable and reliability is as good as ever, but the racing pedigree of this engine cannot be understated. The 3S was used in IMSA endurance racing, Japan's GT500 racing series, and even powered the Toyota 88C at Le Mans in the late 80s, where it made around 800 horsepower with a 2.1-liter turbocharged engine. This is really just an incredible testament to Toyota's capabilities and commitment to quality, and the S Series will have to land in the S tier. The Toyota Y Series is about the same size as the S Series, but with a fraction of the power. Only found in a naturally aspirated pushrod format, the Y Series is meant purely for efficiency and reliability. It doesn't have any performance applications and is primarily found in small Japanese trucks. For those usages, the torque production is adequate and again assisted by the lightweight of these vehicles. The Y Series seems to be quite similar to the P Series by both design and usage, but a little larger in displacement and mainly produced decades later. It's a natural progression from the P Series, and when considering how much later the Y engines were built, it seems that the C tier would be fair. Next up is the Toyota E engines, built in the 80s and 90s while featuring both single and dual overhead camshaft configurations. By design and application, the E Series was the successor to the K engines, taking over in many of the same vehicles. Displacement is still quite small, but power output gets a small boost, especially in the turbocharged offerings. Of the naturally aspirated E engines, the 5E is the least hassle thanks to its strengthened internals and vibration reduction systems. Although, all E Series have been said to be ultra reliable, but nothing exciting, a description that would fit the B tier. Now for the engine that will cause the most controversy in this video, the Toyota ZZ Series engines are best known for their usage in the Lotus Elise and the 3rd generation MR2. In each of these cars, the ZZ engine plays a huge role in how much fun they are, singing up to 8,000 RPM in the Lotus Elise. All versions have dual cams, variable valve timing, and forged connecting rods. Power per liter output is impressive, with serious punch in the very rare supercharged Elise. The 2ZZ in particular won an award for Worldwide Engine of the Year, which is great and might have you questioning why I said this would be controversial. The flip side of these engines is well-documented piston ring issues, especially in the 1ZZ, that can lead to severe oil consumption or in rare cases even catastrophic failure. It's just one of those engines where the opinions wildly differ based on your experience, so accounting for that piston ring issue, the ZZ series will go into the A tier. The RZ engine family is yet another with a cast iron block aluminum head and found primarily in Toyota trucks. Technically the successor to the Y engines, a few significant changes were made. First, the RZ received a much needed bump in displacement, making the performance figures somewhat respectable. In a few of the years production ran parallel to the Y series, the RZ engines were offered as a more powerful but more expensive factory option. It also had forged steel connecting rods, which started to become a regular thing for Toyota as manufacturing technology progressed. Not a ton to say about the RZ series other than its claim to be extremely reliable and more usable on major roads than its smaller predecessor. If you wanted a small and efficient truck, the RZ engines were a perfect fit and earned the upper B tier. Toyota's SZ series came around the turn of the century and still sees production today. Each of the three variants include variable valve timing and are actually primarily produced by Daihatsu and included in many of their vehicles. Most of the usage for these engines is native to Japan, explaining the small displacement and focus on efficiency corresponding to many of their tight city streets. That said, it's also notable that this is indeed a modern engine and extremely underpowered by today's standards. There isn't anything terribly wrong with the SZ series, but Toyota themselves have offered many better options in a similar package. These engines will fall into the C tier. The NZ series is quite interesting and impressive for rather unusual reasons. A full aluminum construction, the 1NZ is best known as the Toyota Prius engine. Surprisingly, the engine has a really high compression ratio of 13:1, which is tied directly to its efficiency at the expense of potential knock. The 1NZ FXE in the Toyota Prius is the hybrid powertrain that makes them so ridiculously fuel efficient. It's worth mentioning that such technology was largely untested in the high-volume commercial market at the time, and Toyota got it right on their first try. This technology landed the NZ engines a few Engine of the Year awards primarily for its innovation and success in achieving unheard of fuel economy. Hate on it if you want, but it seems that the NZ power plant is worthy of the A tier. The successor to the S series, the Toyota AZ family was yet another full aluminum engine and signified the large shift away from cast iron blocks. Each of the AZ engines were found in a wide variety of both Toyota and Lexus vehicles, with a lot of them being models exclusive to Japan. It's honestly amazing it took this long into the video to find an engine with any major issues, with the 2AZ receiving a class action lawsuit for obscene levels of oil consumption. Toyota did go out of their way to cover as much of the damages as possible under factory warranty, but well over 1 million vehicles were released with this issue. Oddly enough, in a normal context, it could easily be said that the AZ is still a perfectly fine engine, but with Toyota building so many reliable engines and being compared to those, the AZ series will be the first entry to the D tier. Next up is the Toyota TR series, a fair bit larger than most of the previous engines. Its largest application is in the Hilux, where it was introduced in 2004 and still used today. They're incredibly reliable, and even the most powerful version gets 25 miles per gallon on average. For a modern pickup truck, whether it be the Hilux or Tacoma, the power figures are certainly lacking for the amount of weight involved, but that's why a V6 engine option is usually also offered. For what the 1TR and 2TR engines are, they do a really great job and come with a no-nonsense ownership experience, about right for the upper B tier. Toyota's ZR series took over many of the applications that previously used the ZZ engine, but now with a slightly larger displacement and a little bit more torque. One of these applications was the latest of the Lotus Elise, although this generation is nearly impossible to find with very low production numbers. Interestingly enough, the piston ring issues that were occasionally mentioned for the 1ZZ engine seem to have found their way into the ZR engines as well. The big difference is that the ZR engines generally have rapid enough piston ring deterioration to cause the onset of mass oil consumption. Another well-documented issue was coolant pump leaks, which Toyota once again covered mostly under warranty. It's incredible that even when Toyota puts out an engine with some issues, they do everything that they can to right the wrong. Based purely on claimed reliability, the ZR series will go into the D tier. Being the first of Toyota's 4 cylinders to use auto start and stop for fuel economy, the NR series is another small 4-cylinder focused on efficiency. At first glance, it appears to be another boring and underpowered engine, but behind the scenes a very interesting design is at play. Dual variable valve timing is introduced to utilize a slightly different and less conventional thermodynamic cycle, which improves the engine's efficiency. Furthermore, internally, the pistons are coated with carbon ceramide, which reduces resistance of the entire rotating assembly. The NR series is still made today, and can even be had with a turbocharger. It's still nothing massively impressive when you're behind the wheel and put the throttle down, but the development that went into the NR engines is certainly worth recognizing. The Toyota NR series will go into the B tier. Most known for powering the modern Toyota Camry, the AR series is incredibly efficient and moderately powerful. It's a great engine for a daily driver and can be had in a range of Lexus vehicles as well. Many of those Lexus cars got the turbocharged 8AR engine, making an impressive 242 horsepower. It's worth noting that much of the extra power compared to some of the other modern engines is a byproduct of the AR series having nearly double the displacement. There are also hybrid versions of the AR engines offered nearly worldwide. The AR series will land at the very top of the B tier. Our final engine for the video is Toyota's most modern and recent Dynamic Force Inline 4 series. The Dynamic 4 series includes 6 engines total, a 3-cylinder, 4 4-cylinders, and the V35A V6 that was covered in my Japanese V6 video. For each of the inline 4 engines, much of the design is shared, with mainly displacement being altered. All of them are compatible with flex fuel systems and can each be found with a hybrid version. They each run very high compression ratios for maximum efficiency, with a conservative tune and forged internals to maintain reliability. When you think of the qualities a Toyota engine is generally known for, the Dynamic 4 series exhibits all of them and will wrap things up in the A tier. So there we have it, a full ranking of each of the Toyota inline 4 engines. In truth, every engine here is a good one and won't cause you any massive headaches. With reliability, Toyota just doesn't miss, and that's why they're probably once again going to be the highest selling manufacturer this year. Much of their continued hybrid innovation has also been quite impressive to watch. With that, if there was anything that I missed or anything that you would change, be sure to leave a comment and let us know. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and have a great day.